There is a kind of power that makes no sound. It does not announce itself. It does not seek applause or demand recognition. It simply works, day after day, season after season, until one morning, the world looks up and wonders how it missed something so magnificent standing right in its midst. Arjun was that kind of power, and for a long time, nobody knew it. He lived in the village of Nadgaon, a place where the earth smelled of sawdust and river clay, and where the mornings arrived slowly, wrapped in mist off the hills. Arjun was a carpenter, not the celebrated kind, not the kind whose name traveled from market to market on the lips of wealthy merchants. He was the quiet kind, the kind who arrived before dawn, whose workshop hummed with the sound of chisel against teak, whose calloused hands seemed to speak a language the wood understood perfectly. He was deeply skilled, but Arjun carried a shadow within him that his skill could not yet outrun, a hunger for recognition so fierce it sometimes made him reckless. He wanted people to see him. He wanted the village elder to nod at his name. He wanted the merchants from the city to seek him out by reputation alone. And when they did not come, when seasons passed and his extraordinary work sat quietly in the homes of ordinary people, that hunger gnawed at him like rust on iron. His friend Vikram, who ran a small sweet shop at the edge of the bazaar, understood this hunger well. The two had grown up together, climbing the same mango trees, dreaming the same large dreams. But Vikram had learned something early that Arjun had not. That noise, even beautiful noise, can drown out the sound of real work being done. "You talk about your craft more than you practice it," Vikram said one evening, as they sat on the steps of Arjun's workshop watching fireflies rise from the grass. "The river does not announce itself before it raw. Each is the ocean." Arjun laughed it off. "What good is excellence if no one knows it exists?" But the question sat in him longer than he admitted. The years came and went like monsoon clouds, heavy, then gone, then heavy again. Arjun continued his work. He built a merchant's cabinet so precise in its joinery that the drawers slid without sound. He crafted a cradle for the schoolteacher's wife, curved and smooth as a cupped palm, and the child who slept in it grew up claiming it was the most beautiful object she had ever touched. He built doors, beds, bookshelves, and window frames, all of it made with a care that went unremarked in the marketplace, but was felt quietly by every hand that touched it. He stopped complaining about visibility around the third year. Something shifted in him. Not surrender, but something deeper. He began to understand that the work itself was teaching him something. Every joint he cut cleanly, every surface he sanded until it caught the morning light just so, every piece he sent into the world without ceremony. These were deposits. Not into any account he could see, but into something real nonetheless. He was tired sometimes. His shoulders ached in the cold months, his eyes strained by lamplight. But he did not stop, and he did not shrink. Then, without warning, something changed. A woman named Kamala arrived in Nadgaon from a city 4 hours away. She was an architect, commissioned by a prosperous family to furnish a new home in the modern style, and she had heard, through the kind of quiet network that carries only things worth carrying, that somewhere in this village was a carpenter whose work held something rare. She walked into Arjun's workshop on an ordinary Tuesday morning, and she stood for a long time without speaking. His workshop was modest. The floor was covered in fine shavings. The smell of linseed oil and wood was thick and warm, but what she was looking at was a cabinet he had built for himself, never intended for sale, with inlaid panels of contrasting rosewood and teak, geometric and precise, the kind of work that took not just skill, but a philosophy of patience she had rarely encountered. "How long have you been doing this?" she asked finally. "Since I was 9, Arjun said. She commissioned 12 pieces, then she brought colleagues. Then she wrote about him in a journal read by craftspeople across 3 states, and slowly, not overnight, not dramatically, but with the same quiet certainty with which bamboo roots before it rises, Arjun's name began to travel. Vikram, when he heard the news, only smiled. "The river," he said simply. Arjun understood now what his friend had meant all those years ago, sitting among the fireflies. A river does not shout that it is moving. It does not stop at every village and demand acknowledgement. It simply flows, purposefully, persistently, carving its path through stone, not through force, but through faithful motion. And it reaches the ocean. It always reaches the ocean. The tree that grows loudly, that sways and bends and calls attention to itself in every passing breeze, is often the first to fall when the real storm arrives. But the tree that grows inward, quietly thickening its trunk season by season, building roots that reach deep into the dark earth, that tree is still standing when the storm is just a memory. This ancient wisdom speaks to us today. In our modern world of constant noise, of social media updates and public announcements and curated highlight reels, we face the same choice Arjun faced in that sawdust-covered workshop. We are tempted to perform our work before we have done it, to announce the harvest before we have planted the seed. There are truths in Arjun's story that carry beyond the village of Nadgaon and into every life. First, understand that silence is not absence, it is concentration. Every hour you spend showing your work to others is an hour you could have spent improving it. The craftsperson who works without an audience often builds the finest thing. Second, recognize that reputation is not manufactured, it is accumulated. Arjun did not build his name, he built cabinets. His name grew on its own, carried by the people whose lives his work had quietly entered. Real reputation is always built this way, from the inside out, not from the outside in. Third, remember that impatience is the enemy of mastery. The seed that is dug up too soon to check its progress will never become a tree. Arjun's greatest act of discipline was not learning his craft, it was learning to trust it, even in the seasons when no one was watching. Fourth, know that the world notices depth, even when it pretends not to. Quality is patient, but it is not silent. In time, genuine excellence creates its own gravity, drawing toward it the people and opportunities it deserves. And fifth, do not confuse stillness with stagnation. Arjun was never still, he simply moved without noise. There is a profound difference. Work in silence, build with care. Let what you create carry your name where your voice cannot reach. Success, when it is real, does not need an introduction. It walks in quietly, and the whole room turns.